So welcome to the last part of this introductory Kashmir Shaivism series brought to you by uh, Heritage Preservation Committee and led by Vijay Dharji. Vijay Dharji, please go ahead.
Namaskar, Marasani. So, as we heard, we have had 6 sessions so far, and I'll just start with the quick recap of the 6 sessions. So, the first session we really started talking about the motivation, why we are doing this, and the main motivation was to show the relevance of Kashmir Shaivism, which is an indigenous wisdom of India, and what the relevance of that is for today and for the future. And it was not just about history, but about the future of mankind. And I also refer to the conversation with Federico Fagin. I refer to the ecological ceiling that we have breached. Ahmed. Control Alt Delete Hide, right? Yeah.
Control Alt Shift H.
Go.
Mubarak.
So we talked about how mankind has breached the nature's ecological ceiling, breached the social foundations, because of which we are in crisis, and we talked about how there was a need for rethinking humanity. That was all session 1 and 2, and then session 3 I shared my the pictures and experiences from my visit to Kashmir as part of the Kashmir Shaivism Kashmir retreat. And we also after that we actually changed our sequence. We went directly into the uh, session 4 and 5, which was basically key concepts in Kashmir Shaivism. And there we basically talked about the integration of Vedas and Tantras, and we talked about how Kashmir Shaivism refined the fundamental knowledge that was already there and integrated it. So we talked about the 36 tattvas, the 5 powers of Shiva, 5 acts, and 5 states of Shiva. We also talked about limitations and the impurities, the malas, and how upayas are used, or Kashmiri we say wapai, are used to kind of overcome those limitations and impurities, and the sophisticated methods that are actually presented in this. We talked about all of that in those 2 sessions in some depth, but we decided that we'll be doing some deeper dives into specific things because we actually could not cover a lot in those 1 or 2 hours. Because it takes decades to do it. And we also went to, after that, we went to the historical perspective, how Lalitaditya found, he put the foundation in place for the 10th century Silicon Valley in Kashmir. And then we talked about different schools of Tantra and Kashmir Shaivism, and then how the genocides happened and how there was a miracle because of which our heritage or our indigenous wisdom survived. And the books that were rotting in the attics of Kashmiri Pandits were digitized, or not digitized, they were kind of revived, and they were put into libraries across the world. And because these books were restored, people like Swami Lakshman Ju and Maharishi Mahesh Yogi and all were able to carry the ball forward. And the whole movement of Beatles and everything was born out of that. So that was basically the quick recap of what we have discussed so far. And I just want to kind of show quickly that the motivation for this session is to really bring it together. And how this rethinking of humanity can be aided by our wisdom in Kashmir Shaivism, and how this has to be applied across multiple facets of transformation, whether it is political, cultural, social, economic, or ecological values. All of that will have to be changed to rethink humanity. And, we have to go from colonial imperialistic thoughts to indigenous wisdom, the economy that is shaped by that colonialism to mission-oriented economy, and self-promotion or selfish motive at the center of the society to common good, and consume and dump to circularity, nature exploited to nature restored. So all of those transformations will have to be done. And session 7 is about the relevance of the wisdom of Kashmir Shaivism in rethinking humanity, and that I'm going to cover in this session how science and technology and ethics and aesthetics are evolving in this process of rethinking humanity, and how we will basically see how we can actually apply Kashmir Shaivism to all of that in order to lay the ground for optimistic view of the 100th Earth Day, which is 2070. So it's a time-bound thing. We have to do this, and there's a mission related to this. So we actually showed this one-page framework, indigenous wisdom framework of Kashmir Shaivism, where the only reality out there is supreme consciousness, which is what manifests itself in us and in everything every second. That, while I'm talking to you, or while you are hearing me, or whatever experiences we are going through in life, it's all happening because of that supreme consciousness in all of us. And um, uh, it's a field of all possibilities because of which the world evolves the way it is. There's a Swatantriya Shakti, which is independence or free will, which manifests itself in us, all of us, all the time. Then our goal in Kashmir Shaivism is to really recognize that supreme consciousness being the reality in us, and we are not different from that, and that is called Pratibrijna. And that is our true the union with the supreme reality is that process of recognition. And we also in this indigenous wisdom, one of the key things in Kashmir Shaivism is that 5 acts of supreme consciousness, which is Shiva, includes the obscuring. That means the way we are ignorant about our true reality, that's part of its Shiva's Shaktis. And then its ability to reveal or do the anugrah in for us to recognize our true self. All of those are also the powers of Shiva itself. So basically, this is the model that Kashmir Shaivism presents. And then there are sophisticated models for about 36 tattvas, the means, upayas, and all that for recognizing one's true self. And so this is the gist of basically what Kashmir Shaivism is. And one of the key things in Kashmir Shaivism is that this world is not just mithya. It is real as Shiva, because it's the manifestation of Shiva. So and the manifestation of aspect of Shiva is Shakti. And without that manifestation, you cannot see Shiva. There's no way. Shiva is nothing. So that's why this is not mithya in Kashmir Shaivism, whereas in earlier Vedantic thought, it was considered to be as Maya, which is mithya. So we will see during this session how Upanishads and Vedantas and all, and Tantric Buddhism has influenced science and society in the last 1 century. But we'll also see how the less known Kashmir Shaivism has more refined wisdom than all of those, so that can help transform science and society in a more subtle manner and better manner, because it's more refined version of Vedanta. So in this shaping of science, technology, ethics, and aesthetics, we also see a case for Kashmiri Pandit Renaissance, because we have been scattered all across the world. And this can actually bring us together as one big, proud community. And the 3 areas, science, technology, and public health, I will basically be talking quickly. I won't go into too much detail, but I'll show the links where these concepts are actually described in more detail, or these developments in science, technology, and public health, and ethics and aesthetics are described in more detail. But a lot of it has actually happened in the Science and Non-Duality Conference, which used to happen every year pre-COVID in San Jose. And lots of these scientists and technologists and thinkers came together talking about all of this, in all of that, basically the recognition of the consciousness as the fundamental force was the common theme in these conferences. And that concept of consciousness, as I said in the previous page, is the forte of Kashmir Shaivism, and has got all those sophisticated models which basically make it a solid kind of a science. We'll talk about how consciousness in computers is being pursued, AI, and recent Nobel Prizes that have happened in quantum, because of quantum computing force push, quantum biology of consciousness. We'll talk about the relevance of Matrika Chakra in Kashmir Shaivism to AI, and the cognitive science, how that is coming to the nature of reality, and even creating mathematics for consciousness. And then we will also talk about public health, where the world is dealing with the stress, an epidemic of stress, and the mental health epidemic that is happening as a result of that. So again, I'll just show that at a very high level, there are links that will describe in more detail. And then I'll cover ethics quickly in one page, where foundations of ethics are there in the Ashtanga Yoga that was Patanjali's yoga in about 2,000 years ago, or more than 2,500 years ago, and how that evolved into Kundalini Yoga and all that. And that kind of lays the foundation for this ethics for rethinking humanity. And then knowing our true nature in pursuit of common good, because our true nature is one consciousness in everyone, everything. So that actually pushes us towards common good and all that. We talk about how those ethics will be key for tackling climate emergency, with spares of transformation and all that stuff. So, and then lastly, aesthetics, where Bharat Muni's and Abhinav Bharati basically informs the fundamental aesthetics, which are perennial. They are not subject to this fashion of the day, and so on. So we'll talk about that. So these are some of the scientists that I want to kind of show, who have been attending this conference, Science and Non-Duality Conference, in San Jose. And this includes Federico Faggin, who was the inventor of microprocessors at Intel, and he founded many companies. And he recently, actually this year, he published his recent book called Consciousness is basically irreducible. Is the fundamental thing and cannot be reduced any further. Minos Kafatos is basically a scientist, a quantum mechanics. He teaches quantum mechanics at Chapman University, and he also works at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. And I actually saw him at Swami Lakshmanju's birthday in 2019, and so he's very active in Kashmiri Shaivism also. Stu Hammeroff is an anesthesiologist who has been working with the Nobel laureate Roger Penrose, who got the Nobel Prize in 2020 in physics. And his model for consciousness is creating waves recently. And I'll talk, he's another one who's very active in this space. Donald Hoffman, who's a professor of cognitive science at UC Irvine, with joint appointments in the Department of Philosophy, Logic, and so on. He's also at the School of Computer Science in Irvine. He has also done some groundbreaking work. And then Neil Thies, who's basically an MD, a diagnostic liver pathologist at Mount Sinai, and he's an expert on stem cell research. And he has done some work with Minos Kafatos, who I talked about earlier. And the bottom thing here, fundamental awareness, integrated science, philosophy, and metaphysics. They have actually done this work, and again, there's a link here which you can go to and read it. And then the Rudolf Tanzi is basically a professor of neurology at Harvard Medical School, and he wrote bestsellers with Deepak Chopra, The Superbrain and the Healing Self, and so on. So all of these people actually have been meeting regularly in this conference and talking about different concepts, and much of it has got a lot of resonance with Kashmiri Shaivism. And I have kept one YouTube video here, which is quite long, but it has got all of these people who are regular attendees at this conference. And one of them is a professor of mathematics at UC Berkeley. Then I talked about Don Hoffman, Deepak Chopra, and others. And then in this YouTube video, they're talking about this fundamental nature of consciousness, and there are some time stamps on this video which I kind of highlighted, where they're particularly talking about the Kashmiri Shaivism aspects in driving this convergence between science and spirituality. So let me just quickly talk about the science part. So two recent Nobel Prizes were given actually for the work that was done long time ago in in 1970s and 1980s and 1990s, and that finally got a Nobel Prize in 2022, because certainly all of this work that they had done became relevant for quantum and computing. And quantum computing is the next big thing, and in next big thing in terms of money making. But these concepts were actually we have been working for a long time, and finally, because of the quantum computing on the horizon, they got the Nobel Prize. And I've put some links about showing the parallels between what the work that they have done with Vedanta. And there was a conference in March 2024 at Ayodhya, where a lot of Indian scientists and technologists came together and discussed this Nobel Prize thing. And then before that, 2020, Roger Penrose, he has been doing work on black holes and stuff, and he worked with Hameroff and Arnab Bandyopadhyay, and they have been talking about consciousness as being a fundamental force, and then they have talked about the physics of consciousness and so on. There are quite a few uh, uh, YouTube videos of both Penrose and others in this list who have actually done this, who have described this concept very well. And in fact, one of these guys, Anirab, being an Indian, he also has a good exposure to Indian thought, and which started with the stories he was told by his grandmother, and so on. Um, so he brings a different perspective, and he has actually gotten two-part YouTube video where he talks about the microtubules in our brains and in our cells, and which basically his theory is about how that causes consciousness to come, and talks about the vibrations and the music. And there's a lot of relevance that I see, a parallel that I see with Kashmir Shaivism's Swatantriya and Spanda Karika thing, where it's all about vibrations and different levels of vibrations and how we resonate with them, and how kind of that creates that that creates the uh, quantum entanglement, basically, within our body and within the universe, like across the universe. So these concepts are actually getting a lot of visibility with these Nobel Prizes that have been given recently. And in Kashmir Shaivism, we have this para level. We talked about it when we talked about Kashmir Shaivism, the key concepts. We talked about the para level, which is the transcendental level. We can find new directions for science, as the acharyas did in the 11th century. And there's a because right now there's a new extremely big capacity for experimentation now, because the physics has evolved so much. There's so much experimentation that can be done. So with that experimentation, we can make big strides into understanding and shaping the science and technology of today. So I'll show you, for example, here. Um, uh, there's a recent NASA mission to near Earth asteroid, which is Bennu asteroid. So they are actually doing Stu Hameroff and Anirab and all that, with the guidance of Penrose, have in May 2024, which is like a couple of months ago, they have devised an experiment with this NASA mission to really do some experimentation on basically find a testable, profound, and more sensible than alternatives, and comes from one of the truly great minds of these past 2 centuries. Why couldn't Penrose model? This is all I just kind of cut and pasted from this paper that came in May 2024, on how they're going to be doing this quantum measurement problem and consciousness research, how this consciousness really came about. And they're going to look at this asteroid and see the spark, how the spark of life could have come even before the universe was born. So So basically talking about consciousness has to be fundamental. So this research is now being done at these new NASA missions in these asteroids. So the experimentation has become very sophisticated. I also want to show that the 20th century's theoretical transformation that happened in quantum mechanics was mainly done by Schrödinger. And he was informed by Upanishads and Vedanta in basically devising or evolving this quantum physics in about like 80 years ago. So his equation is at the heart of quantum mechanics. So whenever he used to go to conference talks, he would often end with the statement, Atman is equal to Brahman. And he would call this as the second Schrodinger's equation. So he used to always carry this Upanishad with him. And he really internalized this Indian wisdom in really devising this quantum mechanics. So I want to say that Kashmir Shaivism brought very sophisticated refinements on top of Upanishads and Vedanta. And the 20th and 21st century scientists have plenty of exposure to Vedanta and so on, but they have very little exposure to Kashmir Shaivism. So though last century there was a lot of appreciation of Vedanta and all, but they did not know anything about Kashmir Shaivism. And now there is time for us to really whoever the next generation who are doing this work, who are going to be working in this new technologies and new science, they can embed these concepts of Kashmir Shaivism into that research and really come up with new refinements and new better understanding of the world. So here is the Geneva-based one of the best labs in physics, CERN, where they have basically shown this Nataraja and the cosmic dust. And then this Nataraja concept is actually coming from Kashmir, actually. Originally it was devised, it was actually evolved in Kashmir, but then it became it became much more sophisticated and much more artistic in South. So I want to say this, that John Wheeler, who was one of the top-notch physicists who laid the foundation for these recent Nobel Prizes, by the way, he said that one has the feeling that the thinkers of the East knew it all, and we could only translate their answers if we could only translate their answers into our language, we would have answers to all our questions. So this is what he said when he was working on this entanglement and all in quantum mechanics. So, and anyway, I'll not go into all of this. The exposure to Kashmir Shaivism is very little so far. So that's where the opportunity is. And whatever Wheeler said, there is no wonder that this is true, actually, because you see, after all, whatever science has discovered in the last 400 years is very small compared to the 5,000 years or more of our cumulative knowledge led by this perennial philosophy, which was transcendental in nature. So obviously, I think John Wheeler and other scientists, Frijab Capra and all, they have realized this, that what we know for the last 400 years is so little, and we take so much pride, and we're not taking advantage of this 5,100 or more longer years of history and wisdom that has evolved over a long period of time. So I will not go into any of this detail because this is actually August 2024 issue of Scientific American, where there is another set of experiments that are being done to confirm Roger Penrose and Hameroff's theory about consciousness, and they're going to do some experiments soon. And this paper actually talks about some of those experiments, and I have kind of put my thoughts about what they're thinking here and how that relates to Shiva and Shakti concept and all that. And so these people are, devising these experiments. But I think after reading this, I think if they knew about, Shiva and Shakti concepts and found the models that Kashmir Shaivism has, they would actually devise these experiments differently. But again, the relevance of our ideas in these experimentations is immense, I think. This is a video which many people have actually watched. This is about the holographic principle of Susskind, who's basically Leonard Susskind, who's at Stanford University, who's still teaching there. And this video is another one which is very important because it talks about Kashmir Shaivism in particular, and these pictures are from the video, and it talks about the light and sound, and I kind of put Kashmir Shaivism names in this, Prakasha and Matrika, and how these concepts really create the universe, and every moment of our existence we create universe, and this Prakasha and Matrika, which is our power for language and conceptualization, that's what creates this thing, and this universe the way we see it every moment. And this whole thing is actually described well in this YouTube video, and it also kind of maps this Suskind's ideas about holographic principle, which is one of the most recent developments in physics, and how that kind of parallels with Kashmir Shaivism. And basically, this person, Maria Sildona, who has made this video at the Science and Non-Duality Conference, basically talks about, hey, this is 1,200 years old philosophy, and it's lost and nobody knows about it. And here we are seeing this holographic principle being mapped or parallel to whatever they had discovered at that time. So in fact, in Kashmir Shaivism lectures, sanghas that I have been attending, this morning itself, they were talking about these concepts of Matrika Shakti or Matrika Chakra, and how that leads to our conceptualization of universe from time to time, from second to second, actually. So, by the way, when I went to Kashmir last year, I just stopped for a few minutes in Pampore, someplace where I found a 21-year-old boy. His name was Ritik, and near Pampore, and he told me in those 2 minutes, he told me that he had, he's interested in Kashmir Shaivism, and he had watched this particular video, and he tried to contact this Maria Sidlona from Pampore to figure out what more she knows about this, and he found out that by that time Maria had passed away. So this is something that I was quite amazed by, the fact that there was a guy in Ledipora in Pampore who was also kind of reading this stuff. And this guy, by the way, this guy, I'm kind of running a little late. This guy, Leonard Susskind, there was a Scientific American paper which was in September 2015, where his ideas, his theory about holographic principle was described. And it turned out that one of his students at that time was this Shamit Kachru, who was a physicist himself. So I found that it was interesting. And I talked about this with another person, Professor B.N. Kaul at Shivalan, Srinagar, when I stayed with him for one night, in 2016 or so. And he's a physicist. He was a physicist who passed away now. He was a physicist, and he was very interested in this stuff. And I actually left my copy with him because he was interested in this topic too. And he gave me some good leads into Kashmir Shaivism that kind of map into some of these things. I will not talk about this, but that Don Hoffman I was saying, he's recently come out with a book called The Case Against Reality. And he basically shows how the thing that we see in this world is virtual, and it's not real. And he is actually a virtual reality person. He makes algorithms for a virtual reality, but he teaches this, and he basically says whatever we see in this world is just it's just a desktop interface. Just like we have a desktop interface on our computer, where we drag our files around and all as if the files are real, not knowing that there's behind that what's going on is all zeros and ones working together on chips, and we think that this is what we are doing, we're moving the files. So basically saying that this world that we see, we interact with is like that. And he calls it Maya. I attended some of his lectures and his workshops, and he calls it Maya. But again, if he had exposure to Kashmir Shaivism, he would have slightly different ideas about it. So again, it makes a point that Kashmir Shaivism concepts are relevant for these people because they are more refined than Advaita that they are actually using. And by the way, he has also come up with this mathematics of consciousness, which is there in some of those lectures that YouTube lectures that he gives. And this is some of the YouTube lectures he has recently, in 2024, more recent lectures that he has recently come up with. And I was telling you about the conference that happened in Ayodhya recently. This is, all these professors at IIT Mumbai and IIT Delhi, physicists and Stanford University, and all these people are kind of coming together in Ayodhya and talking about this stuff. So do you want to do the quiz now, Dilipji?
Anwar, let me go ahead and quickly do the quiz. Is everybody ready for the quiz? Let me go ahead and start that. So this will be the first quiz. 1 second. Yeah, let me. So this is the quiz number 1. Okay, are you able to see the quiz? Timur, Sarisha, quiz you
I can see it. Hopefully others would be.
Okay, so we have about a minute and a half for you to complete the quiz. Please go ahead. And this is the quiz is based on what Vijayji talked about for this period, and just to make sure that some of the ideas are there. So we'll try to end the quiz shortly. Please go ahead and complete your answers. Okay, so Ismail and you. I'm sure the results. Are you, Ashwini, are you able to see the results?
No.
I cannot, but maybe the others, because panelists versus others, there's a difference in view.
Rameshji, Toshimara, Vuchani result?
Yes, I can see.
Take Manash.
The
Okay.
reason I'm keeping it off because recording is in session.
Take Manash. Okay. So webinar 7 quiz 1. Let's quickly go over the sort of the results there. So what is the purpose of this session? Everybody answered that it's the relevance of Kashmir Shaivism and rethinking humanity. So that's the correct answer. The second one was the Schrodinger's concepts of quantum physics were inspired by. So we have 4 out of 5 saying Upanishads and 1 of 5 saying Tantra Loka. And
Upanishad is correct.
Upanishads is the correct one. So it was inspired by Upanishads. That's the correct answer. C here, as you can see at the bottom. Then we have the Nobel Prize were motivated by which one? Quantum computing. Everybody answered it correctly. And then number 4, The question was, what experiments are being done on samples from NASA? And we have 4 or 5 saying prove consciousness came before life, and then prove life came before consciousness. So
Okay, consciousness came before life is what they're saying.
Yes,
They're trying to find.
correct. Okay.
Okay, and I know that experiment, by the way, is quite involved, but one can read about it and why they're finding it that way. But anyway, that's like, I just wanted to kind of show. Good, that's great. I mean, it's either 80% or 100% result. So that's great.
Great. Thank you for participating in it. Now we're going into the second segment of this quiz.
Yeah. So this is technology and mental health. I'm going to just quickly go through that. And I want to kind of particularly talk about Federico Fagin, who invented the Silicon Revolution, basically in Silicon Valley at Intel, and then later on. And I met with him and I talked about Kashmiri Pandit genocide and all that stuff. And so he was the one who really motivated me to really do this work 5-6 years ago. And he said that we could be actually able to leverage some of this work into reviving Kashmiri Pandit heritage and drive a post-genocide renaissance in Kashmiri Pandits. And so he was quite impressed by what we had done. But here is the microprocessor that he invented in 1971. And then he went on to create more companies, Signet and then Synaptic in 84 and 86 with Carver Mead, who's supposed to be a god of technology, silicon technology. And then he wanted to bring consciousness into computers. And in December 1990, he had a transformative experience at Lake Tahoe. It was like that Anugraha experience that he got. And he read something about that thing here. So I kind of cut and paste here. And because he was not able to find any literature about consciousness when he was trying to put consciousness in the computers, he started getting into this, in Indian and Buddhist kind of knowledge and wisdom. And he did a diamond course or diamond approach with a Muslim Arab guy who was an expert on Vedanta. And that was in 1998, 2008. He was able to kind of really gain insights into the consciousness, concepts of consciousness. And so in 2021 he wrote this book on silicon, and the latest book he has released in 2024 is called Irreducible, that is Consciousness, Computers, and Human Nature. And it was launched at ASML, that is the company that really makes the most revolutionary. And it's like each piece of equipment for semiconductors costs like about $50 million each piece of equipment that these people sell. And he was invited there, and he launched his book, this Irreducible, over there, and he gave a very nice lecture about this. And this is the 55-minute video about all that he has learned during this quest. And by the way, I kind of showed here the Synaptic, which is a very successful company, how their stock has been going, and this is the ASML, how their stock has been going. And so basically, all this technology that is being launched these days is based on the work that this guy has done. And this Irreducible book that he has recently launched is if you listen to that lecture, you'll really learn a lot about what the concepts are, what his concepts are. And then AI and the Sanskrit language of Panini. So this is a IEEE paper that I looked at. And so basically says among all the natural languages, Sanskrit in its style is identified to be the best language, which has minimum deviations. And then it talks about the relevance of that language and the Panini's work in natural language processors, which are at the heart of this AI, which are going to be at the heart of AI. Right now, they're all based on CPUs or GPUs, but future they're going to be doing this NLPs or NLUs, natural language processors or language processors. And so um, so in this conference, basically from a different source I got again, there are some links. There, I don't think I don't see any link here, but this is the link that has got all of this. So could NLPs for AI learn from Madrika Chakra in Kashmir Shaivism? Because that is very sophisticated. I'm going to show you some of this thing that was actually taught today, this morning, in the Sangha, how every letter in Sanskrit is kind of mapped to consciousness, and our how we desire things, how we gain knowledge, how we actually translate that knowledge into action every day, every moment. And this whole cognition, and then realization, and seeing the universe the way it is, and evolving it, and contributing every day, through our innovations, through our uh, experimentation that we do, how that gets informed by this Matrika Chakra every moment of our life. And this is from the Sangha number 35, which is last Sangha, and then today also they actually talked about this. I want to also talk about the public health area, where uh, I'll talk about this transcendental meditation that Maharishi Mahesh Yogi actually devised. And as I said earlier, he considered Swami Lakshmanju as the ultimate. And whenever he had the best students, he found that the best students that he didn't know how to teach them. He sent them to Swami Lakshmanju. And he created this transcendental meditation, and he created a school called Maharishi University. And where all of this work was refined, and they got great physicists from there. In fact, this guy who has presented this thing, John Hagelin, at this was in May 2014 in Stanford University, Hacking Consciousness. Again, I've got a link here. You can watch this, and basically shows how pure consciousness is mapped to the unified field in physics, and so on. But the main thing that I want to show is that uh, the impact of this transcendental meditation, how it manages blood pressure, and vision, and cardiovascular efficiency, and all of this. And so he's done great work. But more than that, I want to show you this fun fact. There was a school, Visitation Valley Middle School in San Francisco, which in 2009 or so, this was like one of the worst schools in San Francisco. And it had got like 38 killings in our neighborhood. That's what they said. And it was like the gang violence, and kids were stressed and agitated, and there was so much going on, drugs and stuff. This was the worst school. And then there was a privately funded nonprofit Center for Wellness and Achievement in Education, which actually teamed up with this Maharishi University, and they created this transcendental meditation based program. And they first thought that nobody, these 12-year-olds and all, will never go through this meditation program. They can't even focus for 1 minute. But they were surprised. They found that they actually worked. It has worked, and within a couple of years, this school actually went from being the worst school in San Francisco to one of the best schools in San Francisco. And because of this, the work that they did. So in the first year they called it quiet time. As you know, if you call it meditation, then people are going to be opposing it and say, no, we don't want to teach Hinduism and all that stuff. So Maharishi University said, okay, call it quiet time program. Don't call it transcendental meditation. And they changed the name of the program and all. And they found that they had 500 students aged 11 to 13, and they had this suspensions in school were reduced by and then there's a there is a results. There are some results here about how the quiet time program changed the the performance of the school, and the STAR test, how they performed there after this quiet time program. And they found it so good that by 2015, they implemented this quiet time program all across San Francisco School District. And in 2021, National Institute of Health published this report, which I've got a link here, and it we basically talked about this and how other states have used it. And then Ireland and Britain kind of started using this program. So again, this is the power of this transcendental meditation. Is a transcendental thing. That is the 11 tattvas that we have in Kashmiri Shaivism beyond Prakriti and Purusha. And once you go into that kind of realm with this transcendental meditation, even these kids transform. And by the way, I talked to Srinagar district magistrate about this program because he's facing this problem. They are actually putting fences around bridges because people are committing suicide because of stress and all these problems. So I've connected them with Art of Living in Srinagar, and they hopefully will kind of implement a program of this kind in Srinagar schools. So anyway, this is now let me just quickly talk about ethics and aesthetics. So in ethics, yamas and niyamas, which is part of the Ashtanga Yoga of Patanjali. This is before Kashmir Shaivism was born, but this is the foundation of Kashmir Shaivism that Patanjali laid 1,000 years before Kashmir Shaivism came. So these yamas are the moral discipline, and niyamas are the observances that people do. And there are some more yamas are the non-violence and truthfulness and non-stealing and non-excess, like living within limits, non-possessiveness, and so on. And then niyamas are about purity, contentment, discipline, self-study, surrender. All of these things are basically the ethics. If they teach this in the civics in the schools, the humanity will transform by itself. So this is the ethics that were the foundations for Kashmir Shaivism. And then afterwards, they actually have this Shambhava Upaya, Shaktopaya, Anabhava Upaya, which actually are more sophisticated means or upayas on top of these yamas and niyamas. And in Kundalini, which was also evolved 1,000 years later after Patanjali, there are 6 variations of Kundalini. And the second best of these is the one called knowing our true nature in pursuit of benefits to the mankind, which is basically common good. So all of these are actually this future civics that can shape the ethics in the new humanity. And then aesthetics is basically another one. I've got a Word document here which basically talks about how aesthetics of Abhinav Gupta in when he did this is called Rasa to Bollywood, how Abhinav Gupta's Rasa's theory actually evolved and is shaping Bollywood and so on. So there is a course that is being taught by Human Resources Department, India in Human Resources Department, Ministry of Human Resources Department, about Abhinav Gupta's theory of rasa and how it shapes the aesthetics. And this is irrespective of country or caste or religion or anything like that, everywhere, because this is basic science. So I will not spend too much time on this because we don't have time. But I already talked about this in the first thing, and I'm just trying to say that rethinking humanity basically means all of this that I talked about earlier. And there are all kinds of different economic, political, social, cultural, and ecological dimensions to this change that needs to happen. And in all of those, there are concepts and wisdom that can be applied. So now the question is how easy, because as I said, Kashmir Shaivism is not well known. It's quite limited in its exposure. And so there are challenges. Most lineages have died out. Scriptures are not available. They've kind of gone extinct. And you can't find gurus anymore. There is a liberation. Then there's also this problem of cultural narrative that is there, which is basically against this spiritual kind of approach. So all of those challenges are there, and but they can be overcome because there are these scriptures, Kashmir series of texts and scriptures, which are there in many of the most important universities across the world, Europe and Europe and US included. And there are many scholars across the globe who are well versed with this. And then, of course, as I said, I attend the Sangha. There are many regular Sanghas available across the globe. And, what I attend is one of the many. And there's a regular immersive teaching and retreats in Kashmir, for example. And there were two last year. I attended one of them, but there was another one done by Chris Wallace. And he's doing another one this year in Naranag area. And then so there are immersive courses that are actually being done. And so it also helps that there is a lot of interest in Buddhist tantric lineage because of Dalai Lama and all of that. There's a lot of popularity of Dalai Lama and Buddhist tantric lineage, and Kaula and Krama lineage of Kashmir Shaivism is very closely linked with that Buddhist lineage. And people find a lot of resonance between the two, so that will also help. So in the modern world, there are challenges, but they can be overcome, and we can increase we can increase our exposure, and in-depth study can be done in this area. And some of the resources, I said, many are laboring intensely to document the original teachings, and there are a lot of Indian scholars in the US. I've kind of listed a few here. One of them is Mrinal Kaul, actually, who's now teaching at IIT Bombay. He's the grandson of Jankinath Kaul, who was a great scholar and is disciple of Swami Lakshmanju in Kashmir. He was also my teacher. And then, of course, other disciples of Kashmir, Swami Lakshmanju in the US, and North American academics are there, like Chris Wallace and many others. And then there are others, non-academic kind of gurus who have these programs across the world, ranging from Melbourne to California to even Kashmir. They go ahead and do the studies. So anyway, there are things that are available, and if we are able to utilize and extract this wisdom from Kashmir Shaivism and inform our as the constitutions change in the countries, how they impact those constitutions, how judiciary and Congress and executive and all get influenced by that wisdom, and how tax codes and permitting and all of those things get impacted by that wisdom, then we'll be rethinking humanity, and our heritage, which is going under, will revive in the service of humanity. And by the way, there is a link here, which is Om Swami, basically talking about what Tantra means, what Mantra means, and what Yantra means. And, how, what I'm saying here actually makes sense. This video is also there. I've got a link here. And by the way, this guy is a tech millionaire who he was a millionaire before he renunciated and became a Swami. And this is what he's talking about. He's got a lot of videos online. So basically, deploying mantra, yantra, and tantra to shape the future of humankind and revive our lost heritage. And fun fact, lastly, I would say that Rakesh G. Kaul has written this book, called Dawn, the Warrior Princess of Kashmir. This is set in year 3000, 1000 years later. And it's a very good book, which basically captures the wisdom of Kashmir and how it will shape the world. So whatever I'm talking about is also kind of motivated and inspired by some of the things that he has said in this book, Dawn, the Warrior Princess of Kashmir. It's a fiction, of course, but there is a Sarah Louis Gates who has written a commentary on this book, and she calls herself an Australian Kashmir Shaivite Hindu and yoga instructor. So, quiz. I think we are little, we've gone far.
Yeah.
3 minutes.
Yeah, Vijay's got 3 minutes over, no problem, but it was really great session. Thank you so much, Vijayji, for sharing all this information and how much you have compiled. It's just amazing the amount of information and knowledge and that wisdom that you've shared. Extremely grateful to you. Thank you so much for presenting all this information and working so hard to put it all together. It's an amazing service that you're doing to the community.
This is God's grace. Shiva's grace.
Yeah. So we'll quickly launch the quiz, and then we'll go to the questions. So let's quickly launch the quiz. Thank you everybody for staying with us today. It's been a great lecture today from Vijayji, and great presentation. Let's continue this. Just stay with us for a few more minutes, and we'll get to the quiz, and then we'll get to the questions. Okay, so let me launch the quiz here quickly. Okay, so I've launched the quiz. Let's give it about a minute and a half. Please go ahead and answer it. Ashwini ji, to Shumara Vushan quiz?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The answer Vushan came. बाकी हमारा उचान quiz answers and shuni one. There we go. We have stored.
Yeah, Chikasamat Gomad Gadbird.
Yes.
First two questions are good, but I think third question is actually from a previous history session.
Achha. Oh.
Yeah, and the fourth session is okay. Maybe I made a mistake or what.
Okay, no, I might go and copy paste.
Yeah, but fourth question is okay.
Chalo, theek. So please ignore question number third.
Question number third is from the previous history session.
Please ignore that.
I answered it for extra credit.
Right. Okay, we'll end the poll. You quiz karo end isme. But can we share results? Okay, let me share the results. Yeah, which book did for Gene release in 2024? It was half Silicon from Microprocessor. The correct answer was The Irreducible Consciousness.
Correct. Silicon was also his book, which is, so that's why it's a little tricky. It was also his book, but it was like earlier into 2021.
Correct. And then the second question was, to which field of current interest can Matrika Chakra from Kashmiri Shaivism be applied? So people talked about circular economy, mental health, and then natural language. Most talked about natural language, and that's the correct answer. Natural language processing in AI is the correct answer, that Matrika Chakra from Kashmiri Shaivism can be applied. The third one for extra credits, as Ashwini said, outside India, Tantric kingdom still exists in which place? Many people answered Nepal. The correct answer was Bhutan.
Yeah, Nepal is not a kingdom anymore. It's a communist country now.
Okay, and then the last question here, what's your choice of best resources to learn Kashmir Shaivism in the West? And everybody said all of the above, all the choices, everybody said that was the correct answer. Thank you so much for responding to the quiz. It was good. So at this point, let's go ahead and go into the questions. Rameshji, before we go to your question, I know Isha ji had asked a question prior. The question was, are there any tentative dates for the advanced session of Kashmir Shaivism? Is the question.
We can do it actually. Say, we skipped some parts, And some of the people who were present, they said that they actually would like to come back to that. And then we also wanted to do an experiential session, and I'm kind of ready with that. I can do that in 2 weeks. But we have been doing this every 2 weeks.
Right.
So we could actually start doing those. But then we also had this meeting with the volunteers from the East Coast camp in Colorado, where we decided to also insert Bhagavad Gita and Karmakand, Kashmiri Karmakand, the rituals that we perform and what is the science behind them. And Surinder ji wanted to kind of, or we can utilize his kind of knowledge, and he can lead some of those sessions. So maybe next session we can do that. I'm kind of ready with, but after that we can actually maybe switch to Surinder ji for a couple, and then come back. So we could tentatively keep it like every 2 weeks for now, it seems.
So the question is, yeah, I mean, I think in terms of those, how we arrange it. Let's talk also and see what's the best way of. Maybe we need to continue these Kashmiri Shaivism advanced sessions in this forum, and then perhaps the alternate other weekend we can have the Bhagavad Gita, so that it can be that on every week we will have it, because we're doing this 2 weeks, so we can have the 2 weeks cadence for Kashmiri Shaivism if people are interested in the deep dives, and then introduce the Bhagavad Gita so that it can be done every week, every other week. So then so that we can do the scheduling aspect. So let's talk about that, and then these other Karam Kand and all of that, we can talk about those thing. But I think there's sufficient interest in continuing with these advanced sessions in Kashmiri Shaivism, I think.
So I think the answer is that we need to do our homework, and we'll get back, and that will be communicated over the WhatsApp groups as well. So please stay in touch over that, and keep your feedback coming.
Correct. And then other request, Isha ji, if you could please share some topics in Kashmiri Shaivism for deep dives. If based on this introductory sessions, something has piqued your interest and you would like deep dive, this where we will also need some feedback from the group, so that we can also select those deep dive sessions. Ramesh ji, there was a question. Please go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I did not know Yetish question answer session was. I was mostly going with the chat option. But Mr. question, Tachu 1 to 7 you completed, right?
Right.
Is there any way you can send me the link of those, and also use Vijay Jinji presentation Sarajan Karmus? Can I have these slides? Can you upload these slides to the link so that we can download and read it?
Vijay ji and Mona Godai, what we will try to do now that we have completed this one set of introductory, videos, amik link to be use presentations, amik link thao is like email us mas, that was the one liner, kya chuye, to sozo patais, sarni, obviously use yad group as manship, they throw out him KOA USA as manship members, the mansos of sarni source.
But that's going to take some time, right?
I don't think it will take too much time. I mean, it can be done within a few days, I guess.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
And also the thing is that as far as the presentations are concerned, we found earlier that some of these presentations are large, and it's not easy to kind of upload them and stuff. So what we did was we created a Word document. For each session, we put all the links from that particular session into that Word format. And I have that, we can actually utilize that Word format thing, but that'll be easier to handle. But I'll also separate this whole big presentation I have for 7 sessions into 7 pieces. And that way you can, we can handle it better, because then they'll be smaller.
So it's Google.
Whatever the format you say, whatever you think is the right thing. So main thing is that it should be communicated to everyone.
Correct.
I'll give an example. My wife, Rita Cole, is interested in learning this, but she's busy with her, household things and office work. So whenever she gets the time, she can read those, right?
So good thing is we have these YouTube lectures, and and we can utilize them, and we know that people sometimes have conflicts, but because this is there, and then if we have a one-liner to tell about what that lecture is about, then people can choose what they want to watch.
Yeah, it is so broad, it is hard to completely get within an hour to get everything. And
right. I mean, people spend hours, decades to really learn this, and even then it takes, they say, okay, now next lifetime I'm going to learn it.
Yeah, true. Thank you very much. It was really good.
Should we stop the recording?
Yeah, Vijay Isha Kolji has said thank you very much. She wanted to say thank you for your effort and compiling this information. She has shared that comment. And again, yeah, that's the sentiment. You've done extreme amount of work for this. We're all indebted for that. Bhavika,
yeah, that encourages me a lot. There's a lot to be done.
Yeah, Bhavika ji has said that, can we have these subsequent sessions for hour and a half? Seems challenging to do justice to this agenda in an hour's time. Yeah, Ashwini ji?
I was going to say this is tied to the same planning discussion we need to have,
right,
and will definitely flow from the feedback as well. So we need to consider these details for that.
Absolutely. So then the other question was, Isha ji is asking that when can we sign up for the advanced session? So I think, Ashwini ji, you would say that we do have to plan those, and then once the planning is done, then we'd share that and publish that information when those things can happen.
Yeah, actually, between Dilip ji and maybe we can also include Surinder ji from Texas, and then we can talk about some of his lectures, and the fact that we have now nested Kashmir Shaivism as one of the topics under spiritual heritage.
Correct.
And we could actually we'll have to do that planning offline to figure out what topics we should be including and what sequence we should be doing.
Yes.
For example, we had talked about tattvas, Kundalini Shakti Upayas, and Shakti Upaya particularly, and so on. So we can actually include Bhagavad Gita, Kashmiri Bhagavad Gita by Surinder Kaulji, and then his Karmakand rituals by him. So, let's talk about that offline. I would suggest that we talk about it soon so that we can, communicate our plan for the deep dive.
So in that spiritual heritage work stream, if you could please maybe set up a meeting for the next, in the next week sometime, so we could talk about that then.
Yeah. If you Ashwini ji and Dilip ji and but of course we don't have Surinder ji today, but if Ramesh ji can kind of plug in for him, we could even talk about it now, and others who want to drop off can drop off.
No, so we're still.
And this is what I suggest. I think next time, or we can have a separate session.
Yeah.
Let everyone join the session. It is not that only few people should join. So Agartana, so that way we can chart out what the program is for that Bhagavad Gita, Karam Kand, Shaivism. So even for next week, agar half an hour to thayu, I think that everyone can join, and okay, but this is how we are going ahead. Rather than calling only few people, then other people do not know. Okay, maybe
Tish.
Someone has some other thing. So
next week show, I see West Coast camp.
No, that's fine. What I'm trying to say, you can, if not next week, some next time. Okay.
What I'm trying to say, let's do this. We just said that maybe 2 weeks from now we can have that makeup session. In that session, we can actually talk about these, deep dive topics, and also we can talk about the remaining things that had been left over that people were interested in covering later at the end. So we can combine that, but we could start with this deep dive bin list.
So Isha ji has said that she will compile a list of topics that she is also interested in, and share that with us. So that'll be great, Isha ji, if you could share that with us via WhatsApp chat, and maybe that will also inspire others to share the topics. If you could take lead on that, share those topics in the WhatsApp group. Others might follow the lead, and then we can select those topics based on the general interest.
Should we stop the video recording at this stage?
Yeah. Let's do that. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let me just stop the recording.
And